Everyone, Mark Abrams here in a tornado warning area of Philadelphia. We've had three of them in the last 2 hours. Got Marshall Kauffman in Reading, PA, and Dr. Andrew Foy in parts unknown. So, I don't know where you're at. Marshall, before we get started, how's the weather over there?
It's constantly raining, so it's a lot of rain, and they're calling for the same thing that you're seeing, Mark. A lot of shutdowns and things of that sort.
So if we hear any beeping noises in the background, I'm getting underneath my desk here. So,
But if you see me grab an umbrella, you know that it's starting to rain inside my house as well.
That's not good. So we're here to talk all things Kings boxing for the next 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. A lot has been going on the last couple months with Kings Promotions, Marshall and Andrew. A lot of guys and girls in action over the last couple months. Most of the results have been pretty good. A couple not so good, and we also a couple big dates coming up in September. So, Marshall, let's start back. Obviously, probably the biggest news the last couple months was the terrible outcome in Minnesota that was handed to your welterweight Michael Fox when he fought Gabriel Mastry back at the end of, actually, I think it was August 7th, right? I believe that fight was.
Correct.
So we've had a month to digest that with everything in the fallout, and I know you've talked to the powers that be. What's come out of that since you and Michael last talked the night of the fight?
The last thing is, we're still waiting in hopes that the Minnesota Commission would reverse it to a no contest. And other than that, that's it. They enforced an immediate rematch, but I mean, who's really willing to pay for an immediate rematch? So we're just stuck and waiting to find out what's happening. There's been talks of possibly fighting Stanionis and other people in that weight division. So I think Mike has a great chance with any of those guys.
Andrew, when you said we didn't have you on that night, so we just got Michael and Marshall really quick. We didn't get your opinion when you first heard that decision on August 7th. I know you were watching. What went through your mind?
Well, I mean, I was shocked, and I thought it was a terrible decision. I thought Mike won the fight easily. So I think I thought what everybody else thought other than the three judges scoring the fight.
A week previous to that in Newark, New Jersey, wasn't a great night for Kings Promotions that night as Michael Coffey and James Martin came up on the short ends of nationally televised cards. Again, we're a month away. Michael Coffey, I'm sure you've had time to sit down, maybe talk to him on the phone. What's the plan now for Michael Coffey? Is it something like maybe get him back on a few of these 2,300 kind of shows, maybe get confidence back up, or do you want to throw him right back into the heat of things?
No, I mean, we've talked, and he has to go right back into the heat of things. He knows he's most likely going to have to go in as the B-side, and he's going to have to prove himself. And so, we don't have a lot of time to take the road that someone that's 23 years old might. So we just have to go back into the dog's pen, or the lion's den, I should say, and just go out there and perform. And he has to perform at a different level again.
How shocked, Andrew, were you? Late replacement Johnny Rice. We all had we still have high hopes. I mean, obviously, I'm not ready to toss him away. Well, his performance that night, Andrew.
Obviously, I was disappointed. I've kind of taken a bit of a different perspective on it, though, which is, instead of saying that Mike performed poorly, I was very impressed by Johnny Rice. He didn't seem like a 13-6 fighter. He seemed like somebody that could contend in the heavyweight division. And he was just much better that night, and I have to give him credit. I mean, he fought a heck of a fight. Mike did seem, slow, but I got to give credit to Johnny Rice.
Marshall, I mean, I know you said a little bit, but what do you say to keep a confidence level up on a Michael Coffey?
I mean, I don't know how much you can say to keep the confidence up, except the fact that hey, look, you got to this level, you can get back there again, but you have to go out there and perform. You have to go out there and do what you did prior to that fight, and that's knock guys out and put on a spectacular performance. And I think of course the Darmani Rock set that up for him. That fight set that up, but he has to go out there and do it again. And I think he still has the ability to compete with a lot of those top level heavyweights. I just think that Mike has to. This is my personal opinion. I'm not his trainer, but I think he needs to be down around 260. I think that extra 10 pounds would make a huge difference with him.
A week before that, Marshall, King's Promotions was the lead promoter on a very, very nice showbox card. With some mixed results there. Martino Jules did what we've been seeing on some of our local shows that you've been building him on. He carried up, faced a tougher opposition, and really performed that night and got the victory.
Yes, he did, and I thought I was proud of him, and Andrews always thought very high of Martino. He thought that Martino had the goods to compete with the top level guys, and he showed it that night. He went out there and did it, and performed at a higher level and did well. And then of course Boca Chica got a draw with Shenard Bunch, which can't be upset about that because most people thought Boca Chica lost. And then Henderson just came up short, hurt his shoulder in the fight. So we ended up 1-1-1 that night, which wasn't too bad for very competitive fights. They all were 50-50 fights going into them. So you can't feel too bad about that. But it's when you look at the week later with that Coffey, of course, that was a huge disappointment. And then the other disappointment was James Martin, where I thought James Martin was going to at least make weight because I felt like he would beat Vito Melnicki all over again because styles make fights. And he hurt himself, in my opinion, because he came in 4.5 pounds overweight and hurt himself by not allowing himself to get that rematch again. And then he ends up fighting Joey Spencer and, in a sense, almost saved the show. But look, it is what it is. You have to move forward. I'm happy with James Martin that he showed that he's a true fighter and he'll fight guys that weigh 5 pounds heavier than him. It didn't matter. Because the bottom line was the better man was going to win that night regardless.
Andrew, obviously we just rushed through the 4 or 5 results. What do you take out of some of those fights?
So, I mean, first, I was really happy with Martino's win. As Marshall said, I've been huge on Martino for at least the last 2 or 3 years, saying, I think he's one of the best prospects in Pennsylvania. So that was a great win for us. As far as the showbox card went, the Boca Chica fight, I think it was good that he got a draw. Definitely could have gone to Bunch. And then, the Calvin Henderson fight, I was actually really impressed with Calvin Henderson. Sometimes, you get more out of a loss than a win. Steen is an excellent fighter. And to see him compete as well as he did, and for the fight to be as good as it was, I mean, it was a great fight. To me, it's not, obviously it would have been better had it been a win, but I don't think he hurts himself too much with that, to be honest. And he should be able to carry a lot of confidence going forward.
Well, I think we lost Marshall. There we go. Just getting a little worried here. Like I said, we got the tornado warnings. I thought maybe it blew you away or something.
No, I actually was going to look for my KP hat, but I don't know. I think someone took it from me.
No wonder why my head's itching. Another person who I know Andrew has been very high on. I'll let Andrew start with this. Is 130-pounder Alicia Baumgartner went down to Florida, got a big win down there. Andrew, like I said, I know you've since King's Promotions has signed her, you've been very I don't want to say outspoken, but you've been beating the drum a lot for Alicia.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think that she's one of the best female fighters in the world. I think she has, as much talent as any female, and I think she has more power than anybody, pound for pound. It was a great win for her. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but I wanted to. But the girl she fought only has 2 losses. One was to Michaela Mayer, and the other was a split decision to Tiara Brown, who's a highly ranked fighter in that division. And I mean, it wasn't even a competitive fight. Alicia totally dominated it. I think Marshall and I would have both liked to see her stop her. But the girl's never been stopped. I mean, she's never even really been significantly hurt in a fight. And so, I was impressed. I think that she can do that to her. She can certainly beat Michaela Mayer, and that's the fight that we want. I think the sky's the limit for Alicia. People have to remember her only loss was a very controversial split decision to a 2-time world champion who's 2 divisions higher, and Alicia was much younger. She was raw at that point in her career. So I still think she has the ability to be the best female boxer in the world.
I think I read something where Michaela may be fighting on ESPN coming up soon. If not that, Marshall, what's the move? I saw Lisa. She was tweeting the other night wanting to fight Amanda Serrano, who's I guess going to stay featherweight for a little bit. I would imagine. I mean, is that a possibility of featherweight or 130 is the limit for Alicia?
I think 130 is her limit. I think she loses too much to go any lighter. But the difference is that, I mean, I love to see her fight Amanda Serrano. Maybe Amanda's willing to come up and we can make that happen on the Triller card. Ultimately what it boils down to is, it's called prize fighting. What kind of prize can you get? And so that's where there's only certain boxers, female boxers, that can bring that type of prize. And that's Amanda Serrano, that's Michaela Mayer, that's Katie Taylor. There's only a few of them out there that can really bring the prize that's well worth it. And we want the prize.
Also, Atif Overton, he keeps rolling along. He seems to be moving pretty quick. You're fighting against, he's already fighting guys, pretty experienced guys. I mean, Marshall's a promoter. How do you gauge how fast you move them, pull them back? Because he's already fighting pretty experienced fighters.
Yeah, I think with the Teef it's a little different. I think you can move him a little faster because of his amateur experience, and I believe that he has the goods to be. I've never said this about anybody this early in their career, but he definitely has the goods to be a world champion. And but I think at the same time, even though we can say, okay, let's go in there and fight Marcus Brown or people of that sort, you still also have to be careful and make sure that it's the right fight that makes the right sense. Because he's still green in a sense when it comes to being a pro. So they're getting ready for the 8-round fights and the 10-round fights. That's a matter of growing into that. It's not so much that he can't handle it on the skill level, but it's when you get into the later rounds where you have to make those adjustments and things slow down a little bit. So as we all know, Atif is high energy and full of energy, but I think he has to learn to tone that down a little bit as he gets into the later rounds.
Andrew, you want to put a bow on Atif Overton?
No, I agree with everything Marshall said. I think he's almost definitely that he's going to be a world champion.
One more quick result. Marshall is in Las Vegas for the big Manny Pacquiao or Dennis Ugas fight. And fight on the Fox portion of the show early in the afternoon was the big heavyweight. Steven Torres scored another first-round knockout. He got a lot of good reviews on the broadcast. And, again, he may be a guy opposite, in my opinion, of like Overton. He's a guy you can take your time and move. And, by the time he matures and you get him the right fights, he'll be ready for those big opportunities. He's got the size, and it looks like some pretty good raw ability, Marshall.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you have to take your time with Steven. He's doesn't have a big amateur background. He doesn't have. He's based out of Reading, PA, so he doesn't have the sparring of being like in the city of Philadelphia or whatnot. So he's still learning. He doesn't have the experienced trainers in the corner yet. So there's a whole lot of learning curves that are going to take place with him. But he has the size, he has the youth, and so that alone spells dollar signs. It's dollar signs written all over it. He's a heavyweight, so being 6'7.5", 6'8", somewhere around there, and having the size and whatnot, and he's got decent hand speed and decent pop. I was actually surprised that he knocked the guy out in the first round. I thought he would get 3-4 rounds out of it, but he got the guy out of there just with probably threw 20 right hands at the guy. So I was surprised with the fight, but now seeing that, we're going to have to take another step up a little bit more.
And you were with him all week there in Las Vegas. Talk about what the experience of being around a big fight, big pay-per-view attraction, big pay-per-view fight, where he got to take in all the bells and whistles of that. That also is a great learning experience that he can kind of take throughout the rest of his career.
Oh yeah, no, he lives for that. He really does. I was almost to the point where there was times where I got a little irritated because he was so into the cameras, into the interviews, and I was like, hold on, wait, it's about fighting. Let's go win the fight. But he's really into all that, and he talks well. People love him. He's very people friendly, and so that came off very good for him, and it was a great experience for him. And I think he's built for that type of stage.
And Andrew, one thing that obviously we know that he has, obviously his story is he was 400 and something pounds, and he got into this to lose weight. Discipline of a fighter. And obviously the discipline is there. What are your thoughts on him coming, how much is that going to help him moving forward, Andrew? And Andrew,
I certainly don't think it's going to hurt him. It says a lot for him. But in and of itself, losing weight's not the same as having boxing ability. So I think we need to see how he continues to progress. And I mean, he's done fantastic so far. And that was a nice win for him.
Just about all those fighters that we mentioned have been built on the quote local shows. Marshall has been running shows, 2300 Arena in Reading, here, there, everywhere. And the importance of that, before I'm just going to segue into what's going on September 10th. The importance of that, Marshall, for some of these kids to have, to be groomed on that level to get them ready for the big stage. Marshall, talk about that.
So, like for guys that even like Steven Torres, or guys like who we have on the card on the 10th, Julian Gonzalez, Quadir Albright, those are guys that are smaller weight classes, more competition, different types of level fighters, where you have to groom them, sort of like what I did with Kermit Cintron. You have to put the right fights in front of them, and you have to build them up, and you have to take one step at a time as you're getting to the second floor. And so I think that that's the grooming experience that we've done with those guys, and I've done it with a lot of the guys. I did it with Rais Alim, let's say, who, as I seen Rais perform at the level he was performing at, I knew that it was the time for Rais Alim to step up, and he stepped up and showed up on top of that. So I think as you see these guys grow in their process, guys like, even I'll go as far as somebody like Kayshawn Hudson, who's now won 6 fights in a row. You see that progression. You see him getting better. You see him getting more confident. Especially a guy that had 4 or 5 losses, and you wonder, like, can you really rebuild them? Can you really build that confidence up again? And that's the hardest thing to try to rebuild in a fighter is their confidence more than anything, more than their skill level, but it's the confidence going into the fight, going into their believing in their team and everything else. And so when you see that take place, it's really good, and it feels as though it's rewarding as well. So when I see that, like even like I'm trying to think of who else is on the card, but like Julian Gonzalez, of one individual, this would be his fourth fight in 3 months. And so you see the progression. Now I got somebody for him that his last fight he went the distance, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging for Julian. But I believe that Julian's going to come out with flying colors and grow from the fight and look spectacular on top of that. But when you see guys like that and you build them up, I mean, look, I've done it with Kermit Cintron, I've done it with Travis Kauffman, I've done it with Keenan Collins, I've done it with a number of different fighters that I've worked with throughout the years just by doing local promotions. And so it's rewarding.
Well, the thing is, and I want to ask Andrew, who's a former local show promoter with Titans Promotions. As I look down my show notes, Michael Fox, Michael Coffey, Martino Jules, Calvin Henderson, Rais Salim, who we'll get to in a few minutes, and Alicia Baumgartner, the people who we're talking about today on this session here, all have been built and made appearances on the local club circuit scene, and are now staples on national TV. Andrew, you talk about the importance, because obviously you ran a whole bunch of shows in Harrisburg, of seeing that happen, seeing the maturity, seeing the growth of young fighters onto the next level.
Yeah, I mean it's great to see. I mean, it's what we expect and it's what we hope for a lot of these fighters. I mean, I think the club shows are a huge part of the sport. I mean, it's I kind of say it's like the minor leagues of baseball. I mean, it's different in boxing because in baseball you don't have the minor leagues mixed with the pro leagues, but they're still all professionals. They're just professionals at a different level. And I think the importance of these club shows is huge for developing these fighters. And sometimes the main events and whatnot at the club shows are my favorite fights in a lot of cases, because it might occasionally be guys that are never going to get to that national stage, but they're fighting their guts out, and that's their life right there. So I love the club shows. One of the reasons that I joined with Kings is because I think Marshall always did such a good job with them. We always had a very similar mindset when it came to putting on quality shows. And so that was a natural fit, but it's been great with Kings, having the ability to obviously broaden my reach and experience and learning, at the highest level of the sport, and seeing it from the bottom all the way to the top. So that's a really, cool thing.
And we'll get to Reese in a minute, but I think one of the coolest things, and Marshall obviously responds for this. He signs a kid out of Michigan, Rais Salim, who's fighting out in Vegas now. Bro, I mean, it's probably the third fight of the night on the first show that you probably had him in, and now he might be the best 122-pounder in the world. So I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, how gratifying for you, Marshall, is it? Obviously the kid has talent, but it took some of the quote off Broadway fights to get him to develop it into that that level.
Yeah, no, definitely, without doubt. I mean, it's gratifying without a doubt. It's a great feeling, and when you can see that take place, it's definitely satisfying. I mean, I've seen it happen before. Like I've mentioned Kermit Cintron's name a couple times already. But like Rais Salim, I definitely feel as though he's the best 122-pounder in the world. And the 122 pounds, a loaded division. I mean, it really is. I mean, just with the guy he's fighting coming up, I mean, has an impressive record. Then you got, Stephen Fulton, who's another real dog in the 122-pound division, and Brandon Figueroa, and you name it, the list goes on. Danny Roman, there's a lot of tough competitors there in that division. And so, But I think that, I think we are fortunate enough that I truly believe in my heart that we have the best 122 pounder in the world. I
And
really
just
do.
so I just want to close the door on the local show thing. I was going through my bout sheets, and we did a show at Harris and Chester several years ago. Stephen Fulton, Caleb Plant, Jarrett Hurd, all on the card. So you have two unified world champions and a guy who's probably going to fight the biggest fight of 2000, one of the biggest fights of 2021, all on one card at Harris, a little ballroom in Chester, Pennsylvania.
So it was Caleb Plant, Stephen Fulton, and who else was it?
Jarrett Hurd.
And Jarrett Hurd, right? Also, if you look on that card, there was probably who else was on there? I wonder if Kalnacki was on that card.
No, Kalnacki was on a different card.
Okay, but Kalnacki fought Harris as well.
Yeah. But my point being, two guys who are unified world champions, and Fulton, or he's fighting for a unified world championship, and Hurd was a unified world champion. Plant, who is a world champion, who's going to be fighting Canelo in 2 months. So.
The biggest fight in 2021, like you said.
Yeah.
When you have him going up against, ultimately the pound for pound best fighter in the world, in Canelo. So it's pretty impressive. It feels good. I sat with I sat with Caleb Plant at the Pacquiao fight, and we talked about those days. We talked about the days of when he fought at the Sands Casino, when he fought at Harris, and after each fight, he would come up to me and say, "How did I do? What do you think?"
Exactly. He did the same thing to me.
Yeah, because he would always question it, because God rest his soul, Todd Harlip, who was like he was his cup man, but he was really like a manager to him and a father figure. Todd Harlip would always get on his case, like real bad, because he wanted better for him, and so I never forget that, But he was. It was funny, we were talking about that last week while we were in Vegas.
Well, we touched on it for a second before, but we're back in action on Friday night, September 10th at the 2300 Arena with a packed card. You mentioned a couple of the guys. Kadir Albright, and you mentioned a couple of those. Every time you freeze, I think the tornado is.
I was getting a phone call, so I had to ignore it.
There you go. So I don't know if you guys want to switch off. I mean, maybe we'll start with Andrew. What are your early thoughts on this great night of boxing on September the 10th?
I'm looking forward to it. Like I mentioned, I love the club shows. They're some of my favorite things. It's shaping up to be a nice card. We got a lot of our great local fighters in action. Really looking forward to seeing Kadir Albright back in the ring. Julian Gonzalez, both of them, nice fights for them. We got Hudson back. And it's the return of Christian Cardo. So who doesn't want to see that?
It's amazing. Exactly. You mentioned all this stuff and how Marshall break this down. You haven't mentioned the main event, Greg Outlaw and Edgar Torres. Marshall, like I said, we talked about almost everything. I mean, that just shows you how deep the card is, because you've mentioned 6 or 7 guys before we even got to the main event. What are your thoughts? Break down Torres and Greg Outlaw.
Well, Greg Outlaw came off of his first loss ever, the last fight in June, and so did Torres. So it makes for a perfect match. They're both from the DMV area. The difference is Torres is the natural bigger guy. Torres usually fighting at 47 to 54, and Greg Outlaw usually fighting at 40 is now moving up to 47 for this challenge. So I think it makes for a great fight. I think Keyshawn Hutchinson caught Torres off guard the last time just by jumping right on him. You figure Torres didn't fight for like 4 years prior to that. And so I think he's ready to get back out there and make a statement. So I think that's going to be a pretty intriguing fight. You got two guys who are 8-1. And the reason why I say it's intriguing is more so because of Outlaw coming off of his first loss ever and now moving up in weight. So I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. And then, of course, like Andrew mentioned, we got Christian Cardo, who's in the co-feature, which is going to just be phenomenal. I mean, who doesn't want to see Christian Carlo fight again? I think everybody, not only in the Philadelphia area, but everybody in boxing was not only upset, but a little stunned at what happened to him 3 years ago. So, who doesn't root for a kid like that? I mean, the kid there just comes from a great family. They're good people. I mean, you can be on the phone with them and just talk, about anything, about any sports, about life in general. It's not always about boxing, and we're a great family to be around. And so, I'm hoping that we can work together more often moving forward. And I think the kid that he still has a great future ahead of him. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, like Andrew had mentioned, we got Keyshawn Hutchinson, who's fighting Andre Bird. Andre Bird's one of those type of stinkers who can come in and spoil you. He can upset an undefeated guy. So that's going to be a pretty interesting fight. I'm trying to think who else we have in there as a 6-rounder as well as my mind's going here because I don't have my bout sheet in front of me. But then we got the Julian Gonzalez fight against Ronnie Arano, which is going to be a good fight. And then Arano just made his pro debut 2 weeks ago in Harrisburg. Very aggressive, come forward type guy. And so that's going to be a nice challenge for Julian. And then we got, I think Quadir Albright's going to be in with his biggest challenge as well, with a kid named Humberto Camarena, who has got about 40 amateur fights. He's making his pro debut, but it's going to be a little bit more challenging for Quadir as well. Who else do we have? And
we have Elijah Morales in a 6-round bout as well.
Elijah Morales in a 6-round fight,
and he's a major ticket seller. Elijah Morales.
Yes, he is. And unfortunately, because it's a Friday night, a couple guys are struggling with ticket sales, but I think it's all going to work out in the end. Elijah does, and I'm working with Elijah now as well. We didn't officially sign anything yet, but I'm looking forward to what Elijah can do. He's eventually going to move down to 140 because he's not very big. He's not very big at 147. So he's eventually going to do that. And then we're trying to match up Kenny Robles on the card as well. And then we have a female bout, which is going to be pretty intriguing. This girl has not only does she have power and boxing ability, but she has the looks to go with it, where she can be very marketable, like Alicia Baumgartner.
That's Liana Cruz.
Yeah.
I actually saw her in the gym a few weeks back.
Did you really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's pretty. She can rumble.
Yes.
So it's going to be.
She's an athlete. I believe she's a former basketball player. So there's athletic ability there. And I'm looking down the sheet here. I'm always intrigued when the out of towners come in. You have a 1-0 kid who I believe is managed by the same people who managed Martino Jules, named Bilal Quintine. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. And we're still trying to find a fight for him as well. So those are the only 2 fights that aren't matched up yet, is Kenny Robles and him. But he's about 6'2", 160 pounds, 56 to 60. And so we're just trying to see what he has and what he can bring to the table as well.
How do people get tickets for this great night of boxing?
They can call me at 610-587-5950.
There you go. And then I guess we'll wrap it up. We've talked about a few times during this little get together here. Maybe the best 122-pounder in the world, Rais Salim, back on Showtime on September 18th, taking on Eduardo Baez, who's I believe about 18-1 or 18-1-1.
19-1.
19-1.
Yes.
So to talk about that, there are rumors of other opponents, but Eduardo Baez is going to be the man who's across the ring from Rais Salim on September 18th, live on Showtime.
Correct. Yeah. No. Look, it's not a walk in the park fight. It's a tough fight. Baez looked very, very good when I seen him on the ring TV when he fought in the ring, which was a couple months back in Puerto Rico. So he has the skills. He has decent hand speed, right there in front of you. So it's going to be a good fight. And I don't think Baez is as good as Danny Roman, but we'll see. We'll see come the 18th. And I think Rais is going to have to step up to the plate like he always has since, look, Rais is one guy that's stepped up, not only has stepped up and won, but stepped up and knocked everybody out. So He's a big puncher, and I think, like I said, he reminds me so much of a younger version of Pacquiao because of how he moves his feet and because he can punch and he's a little unorthodox by being in and out.
Andrew, what do you expect now, Raiz, on September 18th?
Well, I have to say, I disagree with Marshall with the Pacquiao comparison because I never thought Pacquiao had very good feet. He reminds me a lot more of a Vasily Lomachenko with his style because his feet are so good. I mean, I think Raiz is the best 122-pounder in the world. And, yeah, I mean, when he steps up big. I mean, what he did to Victor Padilla in his last fight, I don't think there's anybody that he can't beat.
Marshall, a lot of people thought, especially after the last fight, that this fight would be the world title fight. How do you obviously his trainers, I'm sure you all have a word with them, not to get the look ahead. He's got a live guy in front of you, like you said, because the next fight, should he win and look as good as I believe we all think it would, probably is going to be a real major opportunity. How does a fighter, and you've been around fighters your whole life, how do you keep them focused on what might be next rather than what you want him to concentrate on what's in front?
I mean, it's a challenge, Mark. I mean, it's a challenge for us. I mean, we go out to dinner and we're thinking about dessert. So it's a challenge. It's so I think that's what separates the good from the great. The ones that can just do that. They can keep their mind focused on who's in front of them and the next task at hand. So that's what Raiz does. I think he has that in the back of his mind, even though he wants to fight Fulton, he wants to fight Figueroa, he wants to fight Roman, he wants to fight MJ, he wants to fight the best, and so I think that's just something that he knows that it's one fight at a time. And he's has to get Eduardo Baez out of the way first.
Guys, who do you mentioned the main event, Figueroa and Fulton. Who do you guys like in that fight?
I like Fulton.
Andrew?
Yeah, I'd go with Fulton.
You see the two winners on September 18th, maybe getting it on early in 2022.
Yeah, I would hope so. Of course, that's all up to Al Heyman and what he wants to put together. But who knows whether Fulton's willing to step in there or not. I think Fulton's on the same page as Aleem. They want MJ. They want the one who's ever going to bring the most money. And that's what happens with these fighters. They want the prize. They get to a point that real fighters, they want to fight the best. And knowing that what comes, the rewards that come with fighting the best is the big prize, the financial prize. I mean, look at Caleb Plant. I think it's reported he's supposed to be making $10 million for that fight.
That's what I'm
It's
reading.
Unreal.
I mean, but the thing is, how they set these things out. I mean, you got two 222-pound fights on the same card. I don't think it's just coincidence.
No, I don't know what it is. Do you know who the opener is for that night?
On September 18th?
Yes.
I think they're always showing two fights that night because they're also doing Bellator that night as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
I think possibly we may have to put Andrew on a scouting thing here. So we have the comments coming in. Got a guy here, Joshua Arce. He would like to fight, say, from Camden, New Jersey. Now, here's the thing. He's got backyard fights on YouTube, and here's how you can find them. So, Andrew, I'm putting you on a scouting mission tonight. You can look him up on YouTube, Hurricane versus Black Mamba, doing backyard boxing fights. Hey, you never know where you're going to find talent, right, Marshall?
You're right. You never know. So he wants to fight?
You
have to ask him what his weight class is, Mark.
Well, if he's still watching.
He just said 190.
190.
Okay. The perfect fight for him.
But he said he'll fight at 168.
He's 190, but he'll fight at 68. Okay.
Let's see if he can make weight for Bilal.
There you go. Start cutting weight.
Well, so I think that's Andrew's job tonight to find this guy on YouTube.
Yes, exactly.
All right, well, there you have it. You got a lot of people chiming in. Just very informative. Obviously, King's Promotions, it's just nonstop with King's Promotions, whether it's on, we just mentioned Showtime. We mentioned Fox. We mentioned the show come up September 10th. Well, I mean, what else? Let me ask you this: is there any little thing that maybe you can tell us out there that maybe the world doesn't know?
There's going to be a huge look. I haven't even told Andrew about this. There's going to be a huge signing that's going to be public in about the next month, and I mean, huge, probably the biggest signing that we've ever had, and it's brought to us by Trifon. Trifon's a big reason for that. Also, another guy that's involved is a guy named Oscar Vasquez, who is the father of Damian Vasquez, the fighter. So there's going to be something big to announce soon.
I can't wait to write it.
That. I can't talk about it now, but it's going to be huge. I mean, it really is.
Well, once you said huge sign, I thought maybe Joel Embiid, but he just signed the extension with the Sixers.
I wish I had his contract.
He's 7'2". Our man, our backyard guy says, "Check me out. I need the money." He has 3 kids. Well, at least
we'll make 168 for next week. You can fight.
Andrew, you got any final comments about what's going on? Just nonstop with King's Promotions.
Yeah, it's fun right now. It's a good time, and I think we have 2 more shows booked after this one, still for Philadelphia left this year. So, hopefully things don't close up again soon, and we just keep rolling.
Yeah, we'll be back November 20th at the 2300 Arena.
Wow. Okay. Little pre-Thanksgiving feast. We should call it.
Exactly. Because I don't know what day Thanksgiving falls on this year. It's either 23rd.
Thanksgiving's I think it's the 25th. Yes.
Is it 25th? Okay.
4th, 11th, yeah, the 25th. So yeah, okay. so that's anything else, Marshall? Anything you want to tell the fans? And what's that phone number again for tickets for Friday night, September 10th, 2300 Arena?
610-587-5950. Get your tickets. There's not many of them left.
There you have it. Well, there you go. We had a pretty big audience here tonight. I guess a lot of the people on the East Coast are sitting in because of this tornado and rain and just
which is good. How big of an audience do we have? 3 people?
No, I get the reports like a couple hours after this is over, but it was everybody.
It was everybody that I said I'll give $5 if they watch.
No, that means I got to stay here for 5 hours.
But no, there's gonna be a huge signing very soon, and everyone will be excited about it. And like I said, keep your eyes open for those young guys. Look, I mean, Atif Overton's the one that's going to rise quickly, and I can really see Atif fighting for a world championship within this 10th fight.
You're putting in a lot of miles the last month and a half, huh?
Yes, I'm exhausted.
Are you close to getting the first class? You getting upgrades and stuff, or what?
Mark, I've been there.
Oh, you are? Okay. I'm sorry. You know what? I forgot.
I have 120,000 miles flown so far this year.
Andrew, I forgot he has homes in other parts of the country, so I forgot he travels.
Right.
I forgot that. So, well, that's it. Andrew Floyd, Marshall Kauffman. We'll be doing a lot of streaming next week. We'll get some fighters on. Me and Andrew maybe do a little weigh-in show at the weigh-in, and we're going to pump up this great night of boxing on Friday night, September 10th. The next week on Showtime, Saturday night, September 18th, Rais Salim against Eduardo Baez. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you probably next week. Thank you.